But let's start with Dave Matthews.
Dave and the whole crew are not only the most professional people, but they're the nicest people. They want you to they want you to feel like you're the famous one.
You worked with My Chemical Romance.
I got to do Gerard's solo record. I worked on Ray, the guitarist's solo record too. And then McKean got back together.
You worked with Gary Clark Jr.
I got to work on that Black and Blue album a bit, and then the live album that came with it too. Got an opportunity to interview for a job with who was at the time the president of Warner, this producer, Rob Cavallo. And you'll hear me mention him a lot because I came up under him. He was like my mentor, him and his engineer, Doug.
Didn't you say you worked with Bebe Rexha as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I thought.
In the middle of a session with Bebe, Doug got a phone call and he had a family member that had just passed away. So he was like, I gotta go, I'm sorry, but Tom, you gotta handle this. So I immediately just got like thrown into the fire with Bebe. And I remember just sitting in Doug's chair and she's like right over my shoulder. And Rob was like,
He's worked with Dave Matthews, Gary Clark Jr., My Chemical Romance, producer, engineer, drummer, Tom Rasulo.
hey.
What's up, brother?
How's it going, bro?
Good, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, living the dream.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. You came on the previous iteration of this podcast, so now it's cool to have you here at LTE Studios at the new spot. So yeah, thanks for coming through,
dude.
bro.
This is sick. I'm like, last time it was like iPads in the studio.
Yeah,
you were like using a little light. It was like a flashlight, basically. I walked in on this one. I was like, okay.
Now we're legit.
Look at this thing.
Actually
took a picture. I sent it to my wife, and I was like, look at Broadway. Look how sick this is. She's like, ooh, nice.
No, that's what's up. Yeah, trying to elevate.
No, you're always elevating, man.
Oh man, I'm trying to. But thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Also, since the last time we talked, I didn't know that you worked on the Orange is the New Black theme song with Regina Spektor. I had no idea. So I definitely want to touch on that as well. Because I didn't know that last time we talked. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start with Dave Matthews. You had the opportunity to work with him. Tell us, for people who may not have seen it last time, like tell us how that came about and how the experience was.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start at like the beginning because I got to work with Dave because I was hired at Warner Brothers Music. So I got that job right out of school. I went to school for audio engineering, and I got an opportunity to interview for a job with who was at the time the president of Warner, this producer, Rob Cavallo. And you'll hear me mention him a lot because I came up under him. He was like my mentor, him and his engineer, Doug. But the interview process came, it was like 5 different interviews that you had to like work your way through. I think like I mentioned this last time, but like it was a gauntlet, right? So every time I kept going like, they're not gonna call me back. I'm like 21 years old. And then they kept calling me back. So one was like, go sit in a session at East West. And I think like they were trying to make sure that you could sit in a room and say nothing for a long time. And so I sat in the corner, I said nothing. And I was like, they won't call me back. And then they called me back. Wow. So the next one was go out to Rob's house, which has his studio there, like full professional, large scale studio. And you're going to run a session. And so I did that, ran the session, didn't mess up, I guess. I was like, they're not going to call me back. I'm like a scrub. They called me back. So one thing leads to another. And it's finally down to like me and one other guy. And they're like, okay, you're going to meet Rob this time. And you're going to go to the Warner Brothers headquarters and have your final interview with him. So I walk in there. At the time I had like dyed jet black hair. And it was like kind of over my face, like a little emo kid. And I walk in, I have like this black button-up shirt. And I see the other guy coming out. It's a guy that I went to school with named Andrew Law. He's like super nice guy, really talented. And he's like wearing a bow tie. He's like dressed to the nines. I'm like, again, oh man, Andrew's got this thing.
Yeah.
This is like a long way to get to Dave Matthews.
Oh, good.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
So Andrew says like, good luck. I walk in and Rob's sitting there. He's playing his guitar. He's got like a marble Warner Brothers logo behind him. And he's like, hey, I should do my impression. Rob, if you see this, I'm sorry. But he's like, how's it going? And I was like, hey, he goes, so you got any questions for me? And I think Andrew had originally asked him something along the lines of like, how much is the pay? What's the hours like? Responsible questions. But when he asked me that question, for some reason I just said, do you have any cool albums that you could show me? And his face like lit up. And he's like, yeah, I did this one. He like took me into another room where he had a bunch of like new pressed CDs. He's like, check these CDs, by the way, are something that we used to use in the music industry, listen to music. He's showing me all this music and he seemed stoked and I was stoked. So I walked out and like in the parking lot, I got the call. Wow. And they're like, you've got the job.
Wow.
So I started that week. I went out to Calabasas. That's where we were always working out of. And it was me, Doug, who is his main engineer, and Rob. So that job entailed like I would run around as the runner. I would fill in as the engineer when Doug got tired. I would set up mics. I'd break them down, like doing every job basically. And sometimes we would leave the studio and do albums in different cities. So like the Gerard Way stuff, we went out to El Paso to do it at Sonic Ranch, which is a really cool studio.
Wow.
We did stuff with Andrew Lloyd Webber in New York. And then with the Dave stuff, Dave lives in Seattle. So we went up to Seattle. And that was the longest one. We were there for like a year.
Wow.
And they were flying Doug, Rob, and I back and forth every weekend.
Wow.
And then they rented out a like really cool like space for me to stay at, and it overlooked the sound, and it's like I felt like a rock star. I was like, man, this must be how it always is.
Yeah.
Like not knowing at 24 years old, like it's not gonna be like this all the time.
Right.
So it was cool. Like Dave and the whole crew are not only the most professional people, but they're the nicest people. They want you to feel like you're the famous one. And I saw him do that with like people on the street, like anyone that walks up to him, he wants them to feel like they're the star.
Wow.
And it was such a good experience, and like so happy that I got to work on that with him.
Wow. No, that's very cool. What would you say you like learned overall from that experience?
Man, it's a hard question to answer because I feel like in a project like that, you have to be a sponge and you're learning every day.
Yeah.
So I learned how to just be in a room with someone of that caliber. Because I'm the type of person, we've worked together long enough, like I'm the same type of dude to everybody. And with Dave, when he came in, he was like, hello, I'm David, like trying to make me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, of the David Matthews Band?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So just trying to like break tension or like get rid of that awkwardness and just chill, because some days he would come in and be like, we're not going to work today, we're going to watch a movie. And like seeing how that's part of his process and his creative process, you know? So learning that you don't have to just be like grinding every day, and seeing the creative process come through, I'm like, I need to take a break today. Like learn that. Also learned from Doug and Rob, just seeing Rob produce every day and how to stay out of stuff when you're supposed to stay out of stuff and kind of let the artist do what he wants. Seeing Doug, the engineer, kind of do some production stuff and all the stuff that entails when you're behind the console and you're not the quote unquote producer, like you're still producing, you know? And then the technical stuff of just listening to how Doug got all of his sounds, like how to use different mics that you wouldn't use, watching Carter play drums and like what mics he wants to use on certain drums. So I learned so much. I owe a lot of what I do now to even just that project.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you observed in Dave specifically? I know you talked about, you know, how he wanted to make everybody else feel special. Yeah. You talked about, you know, taking a break. Sometimes you got to do that. Was there anything else that you observed in him that might explain his success? Like you're like, now I see why he's who he is, you know?
Yeah, that's probably an answer that's twofold. Like one is the actual music and one is him as a person. So I think the reason why he's found success is he writes music that people want to listen to and can dance to and stuff like that. And his writing process is really cool and free and open. Like he'll come in with just a guitar part and the whole band's been playing together for so long that they can just go in there and do a long form jam. We're recording it and then listen back to those 30 minutes of them playing and be like, oh, I really like this part. And then Dave will go home for the night, come back with the top line that I never would have thought of. And it's the Dave Matthews thing. So super talented and all the band works well together. And the second part of it is kind of what I mentioned before, is he's just a really good dude, and everybody in that band is a really good dude, and they surround themselves, like their whole camp is all full of good people. So I think that when you are like that to everybody you meet and you surround yourself with those sorts of people, you're going to find success and you're going to sustain that success. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a great point. Especially because, you hear a lot about the music industry being cutthroat and this and that. So it is definitely refreshing to hear those stories about, successful people that are also good people.
Yeah.
And, that they move that way as opposed to what people tend to associate with the music industry sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
There are good people. And what I do nowadays, like producing freelance, you get to choose the people you work with. Like I choose to work with you because you also choose to work with me, but mostly because you're talented, but more importantly, you're a good dude and you're good to be in the studio with. And we have fun. Music should be fun. That's why we do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's, I like to say I take the craft seriously, but I never take myself too seriously, if that makes sense.
100%.
But yeah, because like you said, it should be fun. And there's definitely people out there that, take themselves too seriously,
Yeah.
And, sometimes that can be not fun to be around.
Definitely.
But no, it's cool when you have a good vibe with people that you're working with. And that's part of the creative process. I know people that, they get frustrated sometimes when they haven't found that. But I think it's just, like trial and error. It's like you try things with different people and sometimes you may not vibe, but keep going, because I feel like the person is out there that you can vibe with and that understands what you're trying to do and can help bring that vision to life.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find your people, especially in Los Angeles or any of the big music hubs. Like there's tons of talented people, but that means that you can actually be more selective about who you work with because the talent will be there.
Yes.
And like find the people that you vibe with.
Yes.
Like find your people and your community. You know what I mean? This whole thing's community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, part of the frustration for some people is that I feel like some people are just like waiting for the people to come to them, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. I feel like sometimes you have to get out there and, and be out at, the open mics or the whatever and, try out different jams or go to different things to like find those folks. And, I feel like when you get to a thing that's like, okay, cool, this is the family, this is the community. I feel like you kind of know when you get there, but sometimes it takes going around to different things or trying out different producers or whatever to actually like land on that.
Yeah, definitely. And like you won't gas yourself up, so I'll do it for you. But like the writers' rounds on Wednesdays are something that like I perform, but I'm not a singer-songwriter. And so I'm not going there to perform or anything, but I do go as many Wednesdays as I can because it's a great place to meet people that are performing. And like all it takes is just like getting out of your house and going to this thing. And the thing that you put on is just like everybody's kind of like fish in a barrel almost, but it's like good people, good vibes. And I've met a lot of people through you at that writers round where it's like now I've got work because I've gone out and made myself available, and it's hard. It's hard to like go talk to people, go talk to strangers, We're all kind of reclusive as musicians.
Yeah, a lot.
So it's nice that you put on that thing that kind of lets people let their guard down a bit.
Well, appreciate it. But yeah, that's part of the point is that I definitely want it to be a space where people can come and meet other musicians, like-minded people, like you said, good people. And find people to like. One of my favorite things to hear is when I either hear directly from people or I see on social media like people that I know met at Writers Round, and then I see them collab on a project, or I see them. Sometimes they're now roommates, or they're like really good friends, or they're like that is one of my favorite things to see, or they're like in a band together or whatever it may be. That's really like awesome to.
You can like
to
step
see.
back and be like, I did that.
No, it's not even that. It's just like it makes it worth it. Like because it's a lot of work to do a weekly thing, especially you got like you've got 6 artists every time that we're booking, and so it can be a lot of work, but it's things like that that make it worthwhile. You know, when you see people making the connections and people finding producers, finding bandmates, finding good friends and roommates, and all that kind of stuff. Like it's really cool.
Yeah. I met somebody at the Writers Round a couple months ago that wasn't even performing. They were there to see their friend perform. I met them, started talking to them. Her name's Allie Starlight. She's like a really great performer. I love her music, but I started going to her shows afterwards. And then the other day, her and her guitarist, who is producing her record, they came over to my spot just to like see the place and show me the mixes, and like now we're all homies. And it's because I went out that night, and I got to find really great music,
Yeah, dope. I love that. That's amazing. All right, let's talk about some of the other folks that you've worked with. You worked with My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
How did that start?
Same thing. It's all through Warner, all through Rob and Doug. Rob and Doug did Black Parade, so obviously everybody loves that record. I wasn't a part of that record. That was before my time, but I met them right when they broke up, basically, or right before they broke up. So I got to do Gerard's solo record. I worked on Ray, the guitarist, solo record too, and then My Chem got back together. So all through Rob, I owe a lot of what I have now to him. But again, Gerard, Ray, all those guys, really good people. It was fun being out at Sonic Ranch with them because you have like no cell service basically. It's like on an old pecan farm, and you get to like meet these people and know them, like you get to know them deeper, So some of my favorite times were days that the drums were being recorded and it was just me and G and like 2 other people, and we're just kind of like talking about childhood stuff,
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool, man. Also, you worked with Gary Clark Jr. As well, which I really like. I think Gary Clark Jr. is one of those guys that I kind of look at because I do a similar like genre blending type of thing. His is probably a little more like rock based than mine, but no, I think he's a super talented, cat.
Yeah, he meshes like kind of hip hop with blues with rock, like in such a really cool way, man.
Yes.
And I got to work on that Black and Blue album a bit, and then the live album that came with it too. And again, Rob and Doug, and that album is really cool because Doug was putting in like hip hop samples behind live drums.
Wow.
To like kind of beef them up that you wouldn't even notice if you were just listening to it. But subliminally, you're hearing the genres mix. And you're like, this is cool,
Yeah. No, I love that. And like I said, I love the kind of the idea of mixing genres. Cause I feel like these days there's really no rules, but I love to, try to create something unique and different, and I think we've done some cool stuff. Kind of mixing genres. So that's cool. But I say all that to say Gary Clark Jr. is one of those guys that I kind of look at and, like, okay, cool. I love, kind of how he does that. And so let me try to do my own version of, something similar to what he does.
Yeah. And he does it well.
Yeah.
And he's like a killing player and like a great live, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He cornered the market on the casino guitar. Just like not even a nice guitar, quote unquote, but the way he plays it is like unreal.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's rad, man.
Yeah, totally. And then something I was mentioning earlier, you worked on the Orange is the New Black theme song.
Yeah.
With Regina Spektor. How was that experience?
It was cool. I mean, it was my first time working on something for Netflix. But that was like above my pay grade. I was like, oh, cool. I just walk in. They're like, today we're doing stuff with Regina Spektor for Netflix. So I didn't know it was for what show it was for or anything. And the thing I remember the most is Regina is a perfectionist. So the song's called You've Got Time. And I remember her being like sending notes back. It was like, she'd be like, when I say you've got time, the time should be more like, not like, and it's like, I remember Doug being like, okay, no, we got this. And like doing a change, and she's like, yeah, that's better. But maybe in the you've now, I'm noticing that yeah is kind of a little bit too long. So,
wow.
I mean, it works for her.
Yeah.
She's obviously very talented, and that song is really cool.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
I wish I could say I watched the show.
Really?
Yeah, I never ended up watching it. I watched the opening credits. I was like, oh, cool, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
But I love Genji Cohen, who made the show.
Yeah.
Because she did Weeds. So.
Okay, yeah. No, I actually did watch Orange is the New Black. It was a very entertaining show. I would recommend, if you get some downtime, to go back and watch it, because it's a good joint.
You should have told me like 2.5 months ago. I had a bunch of
you did. Yeah, you did have some time. With your medical situation. And, things like that.
I had back surgery. Everything's good now.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Glad
you could tell people it's not. You can't.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I didn't want to like be putting your business all in the streets. You know. So, but cool. Yeah, back surgery. So, but yeah, now it's all good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool. That like. Some people are definitely perfectionists, but I think there is something to be said about being very, taking the craft seriously. And I think some people they take it very seriously. I mean, and I think a lot of us take the craft seriously, but like there are some people that are like kind of next level. Like when you hear about, you hear stories about the Jordans and the Kobes and things like that, and you hear those stories about how they're like just on every detail. LeBron too is one of those guys. Like you hear their stories, he just knows every detail, like the ins and outs of like not only what his team is about to do, but what the other team, what plays they're running, and like stuff like that. So like I tend to. I try to take things from successful people and like, and that's part of the point of this podcast is like, kind of seeing and examining what, people that have seen some success, what they're doing, and like, and take some of those things and kind of what you can glean. But like, yeah, there is something to be said about being very meticulous about the craft and just being as good as you possibly can,
Yeah, definitely. That's something that Regina definitely did. And it's something I respect a lot about her. Something too that you kind of mentioned, how people treat their craft, like watching Doug engineer and how he did vocal sessions with artists like Regina and Dave and Gerard. Like I took so many things from him, not just on a technical level, but it's like vocals are 95% psychology. And so seeing how he would navigate tough situations where those artists always quote like have it, they never have an off day, but they may feel like they are. And so Doug navigating that was something that inspired me, which I still use to this day. Like, I've never done this with you because I don't have to, but if someone's having like a harder time with the take, Doug would not just say like, okay, well, let's go outside for a sec. Let's take a break. Because then artist gets in their head. They start being like, oh man, I suck. We're going to take a break. So I saw Doug quit out of Pro Tools and be like, oh, session crashed. Give me like 5 minutes. And they're like, okay, for sure. And then they would go outside. Now they're not in their head. And they come back. They get the next take. And he would never tell them. He wasn't like, guess what I did?
Yeah.
But he got the best takes because of the psychology aspect, You always come in and you're just ready to go. So it's easy.
Maybe not. You don't have to lie just because we're on my podcast.
No
it's
lie.
Cool.
No, I would tell. I'd be like, you need some work. No,
no, it's all good. You can tell people if I suck.
He does not suck. I wouldn't work with him if he sucked. I always say like I only work with talented people because people are like, how do you get this vocal sound? Like, it's really easy. You just put a talented person in front of a microphone, and then I press 3 on Pro Tools, and it's done.
Any other, like, kind of tricks you learned from him?
Man, like, too many to count. Like, it's boring, but, like, file management, I learned from him, but that's how you get hired for stuff, because people are like, hey, do you have mix 2 from 3 years ago?
Yeah.
If you ask me that, I'm like, yes, I've got that. Here's the exact mix too. With like the naming schemes that we do.
Yes.
Learning that from him, learning like vocal editing from him, how to not make it sound overly edited. Especially drum editing, learning from him, like little tricks of like grouping just the close mics so that Pro Tools doesn't get confused with Beat Detective, like all the nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, watching over all the stuff that's like probably putting people to sleep right now. But like, yeah, watching over his shoulder and seeing how he did stuff was, I loved going to school, but I learned so much more from just watching Doug.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
The real school. Yeah. And then didn't you say you worked with Bebe Rexha as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, how was that?
That was really cool. Bebe is like a big personality for sure. Like she came in and she was just like, I'm here, like let's do this. We were writing songs with her and kind of just like throwing stuff at the wall. I don't think any of it ever ended up coming out, but she came to do writing sessions with Rob and Doug and me, and Rob was really like nice and letting me kind of like spread my wings a bit, and he would send me into the other room to try to write stuff, bring stuff back. But that was a really interesting scenario because at that time, in the middle of a session with Bebe, Doug got a phone call and he had a family member that had just passed away. So he was like, I gotta go, I'm sorry, but Tom, you gotta handle this. So I immediately just got like thrown into the fire with Bebe, and I remember just sitting in Doug's chair and she's like right over my shoulder, and Rob was like, I'm gonna go inside, you guys can do stuff. And just like trying to write with her and just being like, okay, cool. This is the moment, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the stuff we wrote was really cool. I think I still have it like on my computer and whatnot. Nice. But yeah, just being in that fire and, you know, Doug having to go out of town and I had to run the sessions for the next 2 weeks. I think that experience made me able to do what I'm doing now, where I'm always running the sessions. I'm doing everything. I'm setting up the mics. I'm recording. I'm mixing on the fly. I'm helping write. You know what I mean? So even though that session was short in the grand scheme of things, like 2 weeks, and nothing really came out, you know, tangible from it, I think it's probably one of the more important sessions I've been a part of.
Yeah, like something to be said for sure about those intangible experiences, like the little things that you know, pick up, and, you know, getting thrown into the fire, as you say, you know, kind of makes you ready for the future. But also, I think it speaks to you that, you know, you were prepared for these situations. So, I mean, it goes to like, you know, preparation, I think is key, and and making sure that when that time comes, you're ready to step in there.
Yeah. You were just talking about how preparedness, you know, and when you have that opportunity, capitalizing on it because you're prepared, you know. I think looking over Doug's shoulder and knowing at any moment I could be thrown into the fire made me prepared for that situation, because I wouldn't just sit there and while Doug mixed, I would like be in the back like kind of zoning out. I was always trying to learn something looking over his shoulder, and he's a funny guy too. He would always be like, go away. Like, okay, for sure. And I like, I'll look over. He was kidding, obviously, but it was cool to be wanting that experience for a long time and being prepared for it mentally, and going home and working on Pro Tools even after long days of recording, and Rob being nice enough that after sessions, when I was like done backing everything up, I'd be like, hey, can I like record something here? He'd be like, yeah, I don't care, go for it. So like being like wanting to do more even though you're done with the workday, like, and grinding and it finally paying off, you know. It's like you can practice your craft even if you're practicing your craft as a career. You know, you can do your own stuff and be like, okay, let me hone my skills even more.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, no, I loved how you talked about basically going home and doing the homework, you know, doing, you know, more Pro Tools stuff. And, you know, for whatever it is that your craft is, you know, whether it's an instrument or whether it's, you know, in your case of what you were just talking about, engineering, like going home, spending the time to, you know, try to improve and try to get better. And also while you're there, I think something key that you said was you're not zoning out, even though you're not up. You know, it's not your turn yet, but, you know, being locked in, paying attention, and trying to be hands-on, even though it's not what's required of you in that moment, I think is key. If you know, adopt that, then I feel like you can go a long way.
Yeah, it's easy to get complacent when you feel like you've quote unquote made it, right? Like once I got hired at Warner, I could have been like, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. And then if that thing happened with Doug and he had to leave and I was thrown to it and I messed up, you're fired, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it works. So I think we even might have talked about this together in a session or something, but something like that happened to me with the session drumming side of things, where I've been playing drums since I was like 5 years old. And I was always like, I'm good, I'm chilling. And I was always trying to practice and get better, but you know, I thought if I get thrown into a session, I'm ready to go. I've done sessions before, but not on like the professional scale. So it finally came to a day and Rob and Doug had me play drums. And it was such an easy beat. It was just like, but your kick and your snare have to hit at the exact same time. And because I hadn't sat down and practiced that, I was too busy being a metal kid and like throwing notes everywhere. I didn't get the gig. Like Rob, after like 3 takes, was like, "That's okay, we'll get somebody else," and it like broke my heart.
Yeah.
I was like, "This is the worst thing that could happen." And I talked to Doug afterwards. He's like, "You just got to get better at that." And you aren't guaranteed to have another chance, you know?
Yeah.
But I do remember going home and practicing that and practicing that and practicing that. And luckily, 2 years after that, I got another opportunity with Rob and Doug for like an Andrew Lloyd Webber song.
Nice.
And there was a part like that, and I nailed that part. Rob didn't say like, "Woohoo, good job, man." But he was like, "Great, that's the take." And then Doug did come up after to me and was like, "I can tell you've been practicing." And I was like, "Yes, cool."
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still use that now, you know?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely something to be said about, because I do think, like, I know I've been guilty of this, of I practice, you know, my songs or whatever, and like you think you're good, but like there's another level of practice that makes you ready for the lights. You know what I mean? Because when you're like on the stage or when the pressure's on, like there's a different thing that happens, you know, because like I know I've been at home practicing and like, oh yeah, cool, I'm good. And then, you know, especially early on, you know, you go to like perform a song and I'm like, wait, why are my hands like doing this? Right. You know, like, you know, so it's like learning to work through all of those things, you know, but I think you only do that from just like that other level of practice and from, you know, being in front of people and actually doing it. That's part of it as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like I heard a saying, it was like, amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong. And I thought that was really dope. And it kind of like shows the separation of, you know, the levels of practice and how pros really do it and how you get to become a pro, because this is a different thing. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm always practicing to a click at home. I'm always trying to pretend that I'm performing in front of people. But like we've all had that experience where you get in front of people and you're playing at 20 BPM faster because you're like psyched. And now when I go on like long tours, that doesn't happen anymore because I'm getting a lot of practice. I'm playing 2.5 hours every night. We're doing like 30 shows in 40 days. And that's the experience coming in. That's getting in front of people and doing stuff. But that's also when people aren't around and I'm just shedding in my studio by myself, like working by yourself to a click. That's the boring stuff. You know what I mean? It'll make you better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, even like, I think I remember you were, because I was at your studio, and I think you had some like courses and stuff on drumming, and you've been drumming for, you know, like you said, since you were 5 or whatever, and you're still taking courses, and you know, and so like, I love that, and so like I've been taking vocal lessons. Even though I've been singing since I was a kid too, but it's like you can always get better, and so that was something that I kind of had to take a look at myself and be like, okay, and in somewhere like LA, there's a lot of talent, you know, here. People are really damn good, you know, and not that, you know, it's not a competition, but at the same time, it kind of is. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're being real about it, like, you know, there's only so many, you know, touring gigs with big artists or gigs with, you know, that are going to pay the bills. There's honestly only so many of those, you know? And so In some ways, it is a competition, you know?
Yeah, music's not a competition, but work is.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you want to do music as your job, you're competing against other people that are like trying to take that bread out of your hands. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's okay to feel like that too. It's like you can not be a jerk and still feel that way, you know?
Yeah. No, and I've been talking to like I've talked to like some really good singers too, and like it's like you know, the Olympics, for example, it's like the difference between, you know, first place and second place might be, you know, a tenth of a second, but winning that first place is like makes a big difference, you know, in what kind of opportunities and things you have happen after that. And so, and that difference between that first place and that second place, it comes down to work. It comes down to the extra practice. It comes down to the lessons. It comes down to, you know, practicing to the click, even though you've been doing it for, you know what I mean? Like sometimes getting back to the basics, comes down to like doing all that work.
Like sidebar, the Olympics are crazy though.
They are,
like, imagine if like every 4 years you had one show.
Yeah.
And like if you didn't perform your best, it's like, sorry, you got to wait 4 more years. That would suck.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we get to play all the time.
I've never thought about that. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the biggest stages in the world. It is the biggest stage, you know? And so like with all that pressure on you and that, I mean, thinking about that, it makes people like your Michael Phelps and your Usain Bolts and like those types of dudes, like it makes it even more impressive that they, with all that pressure, they're on, you know?
Yeah. And like you can take lessons from athletes in music, like you were saying earlier about like Kobe and Braun, like the way that they approach their craft. You can do the same with any craft, you know, whether it's painting or writing music or if you do like stock investments, like whatever, like you're just practicing and getting better.
Yes. Yeah. Like you said, practicing, getting better, and also iterating as well. Like, you know, just keep making the improvements. Sometimes I feel like we want this massive improvement overnight or something like, but it's like the little improvements every day. I'm just trying to get a little better every day. And then, you know, over time, especially, you have people like, oh, you're getting better. Like I have people, you know, coming up to me now and saying like, I could tell you've been working on your singing. I could tell you've been working on your keys playing. I could tell you've been, and that's like cool, like dope that people are actually, you know, noticing that, that work is happening because it is. You know?
And it feels good to hear that. And like, I think too, it's important to remind yourself that if you're getting a little better every day, it's okay to feel like you got worse that day. Because too many people are like, I practiced today and I was worse than yesterday, and you get like down on yourself. But if you take 2 steps forward and 1 back, you're still making some progress.
Yes.
And usually I find that if I'm trying something new and I feel like I'm worse at it, the next day I'll come back and I was like 3 times better than I was the day before, even though I felt worse the day right before it.
I've had that same experience where I'm practicing keys a lot. And then I go to a show and I don't do as well as I would have liked. And I'm like, there was a point where I'm like, why do I feel like I'm getting worse when I'm practicing all the time? And I had to sit there and think, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying new things. I'm getting better. So I'm like doing more difficult things on the keys in some cases. And so when you're doing more difficult things, sometimes, you might mess up or you might, you know, whatever. And it takes a while to, you know, get comfortable with the new thing. And then you try another new thing and it can take you a while to get comfortable with that. But then you just keep leveling up. And then, you know, one day you look up and you're, you know, 10 times better than you were, you know, last year or 6 months ago or whatever. But, you know, sometimes in the thick of it, it's hard to notice it, or you feel like you're stepping backwards, but really, you know, it's like you're trying new things. So you're getting better. It's growing pains. Like, you know, literally there are pains involved when you're growing, you know, when you're working out, your muscles, you know, they get sore and this and that. But like, that's actually because there's work being done inside your body that's helping these muscles grow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm interested to see, have you ever had the experience where you are practicing and practicing and practicing, and then you take 2 weeks off. And then when you come back, you're like way better than you were when you were practicing all the time because it like got to set in your mind.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that's going to work right now because, like you mentioned, I was going after it with practicing the drums for the last like year before I got hurt. I got hurt in late March, and now it's early July, right? So I was going back to basics too, where the reason why I started practicing so hard again is I noticed I was using double kick as a crutch because I've used it my whole life. And I'm like, I want my right foot to be faster. I don't want to have to rely on a double kick. So I just took the left pedal off and was like, I'm going to find somebody online that does that really well. I'm going to buy their courses and I'm going to practice every single day. And I did that. I was getting way better at it and I was feeling like pretty confident. And then I got hurt. So now, as of yesterday, I'm cleared to play drums again.
Nice.
So when I sit back down, it's going to be this aha moment of like, did this settle? You know, or am I going to have to go back to basics again?
Yeah. But I mean, it's like either way, I feel like you'll find it. Sometimes you have to, you might have to get back into a rhythm, and that's that's fine. And, but I know you'll figure it out. But I think that. When you have situations like that, then like the years of training and preparation come in because then it won't take you as long to, get back into the swing of things because you have put in that time, And
maybe you'll notice little things too that you're like, oh, because I had to go back to basics, I noticed that like my taps are a little bit higher than they should be. So I'm going to work on my dynamics a little bit more. It's like I wouldn't have noticed that before when I was just trying to throw notes everywhere,
Yeah. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't notice certain things. And sometimes, it does take, taking a step back and saying, okay, cool. Like, let me evaluate, kind of where I'm at. And then, those breaks can be good opportunities and moments to kind of really, kind of assess some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool too, like getting to talk to somebody that I have like the pleasure of producing because it's funny hearing you ask questions about people I've worked with or like things that I've learned because I don't sit down and think about that stuff. So like you ask me these things and I'm like, I don't know, that's a good question. So it's like this whole thing's a journey that we keep, making check marks on. And like we pass this certain checkpoint and you don't realize you're passing these checkpoints, and then I'm working with you and I'm just doing something that I learned a long time ago. And like, hopefully all of the little like minute details that I'm doing in drums or you're doing with keys and vocals, like those will become checkpoints that you don't realize you're passing. And then years down the road, somebody will be like, oh, that's cool. How do you do that vocal run? And you'll be like, oh, actually, I didn't really think about it. Now I just do it.
Right. Yeah, no, that is cool. I also wanted to mention, I remember last time we talked, you brought up a story of basically just reaching out to your, like one of your favorite bands. I believe it was when you were a kid.
Yeah. So I was probably 18 years old. And like I said, I was like this little metal kid. I love like progressive metal, which is funny because I do like pop and rock now. But there was this drummer that I loved. His name's Blake Richardson and his band called Between the Buried and Me. They're from North Carolina, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They're from the Dash.
Dope.
Yeah. Which is Winston-Salem, if you don't know. And I was like, this dude's really sick. He's one of my biggest inspirations. And I feel like I just want to reach out to him and let him know that he's an inspiration. Like in the digital age, you can do that. You have access to your heroes. And I reached out to him. I was like, you're the best. You're such an inspiration. Here's an album that I just did with my friends. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want to, but if you want to, here it is. And I'm like, I'll never get a response back. And he responded like that day, was like, I just listened to your album. Dude, this is so sick. It's an honor that you would think that about me. And then I was like, do you do lessons? And he was like, yeah. Do you want to come out to North Carolina? And I was like, are you serious? I was like, sure. So I flew out to North Carolina.
Dope.
I was there for a week. I took a lesson every day. I got to go to like his rehearsal space, practice with him, this dude that I like idolized. And then like one of the nights he called me up and he's like, Animals as Leaders is playing down the road. You want to go see him? I'm like, that's another band that I love. I'm like, I'm going to go to this show with this guy that I idolize and see this band together. And it's like all of that happened because I made myself available. I was like, I'm going to reach out to this person. I could have easily been like, he's not going to care about me and done nothing. You know?
Yes.
And that was in 2008. Like nowadays, you got Instagram, you got TikTok, like you can reach out to people.
Yeah.
You know, so just make yourself available.
Shoot your shot. No, I love that. Because I think a lot of times we let that, this will never happen, or that'll never happen. You know, we let that stop us from doing anything. Like you were talking about earlier with the kind of the auditions or the different interviews that you had to go through to get the job at Warner. When you have the thought of like, I'll never get this, sometimes we let that stop us from doing anything. Like a lot of us might not even apply for the job at all because we think we're not going to get it, or we might not reach out to that person, apply for that grant or whatever it may be, because we're like, this is never going to happen. But you really literally never know what might come from what.
Yeah. Well, you are guaranteed that nothing will happen if you do nothing.
Exactly.
So if you want a guarantee, you can do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to get much done.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love that. And it's cool that you went to North Carolina. And I just love the approach of let me learn from people. Like just that attitude in general, I think is important. Like, let me learn and soak up, everything I can from the people who are doing what I want to be doing, Yeah.
And also too, it's like you'll learn stuff about yourself that you don't give yourself credit for. Like when I went out there and I first sat down with Blake, we played, he was like, let's just jam together. Like, let's see where you're at. And like, as a 18-year-old, I was playing and this guy that I looked up to was like, you've got it already, man. Like, you're sick. Like, let's do little things. But then I was showing him stuff and he's like, how do you do that? Oh, that's really cool. I'm like, had this surreal moment of like, I'm showing Blake something that he didn't know. And then I heard him use it like on the next album. I'm like, that's the thing that I taught him. That's so sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a very cool experience.
Yeah.
All right. I also wanted to talk to you because you also tour as a drummer, and you've done some tours in Europe and that type of thing. One thing I remember that we talked about before that was really cool is that how the group that you tour with, how they get people out to shows in Europe, and they're using Facebook ads to get people. And I think that's also kind of one of those things that you don't know if it'll work, or you may not think it would work, but it was cool to hear you talk about how this is actually working. They run ads in Europe and get people to come out to shows, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that band's called Bo Grigri and the Apocalypse, and the singer and guitarist are a married couple named Robin and Greta, and those two, that's like their band. They hired me as like a hired gun, and that was like 6 years ago now. Now, like, I'm part of the family. But those two grind, and they're very intelligent people. And when they do these tours in the UK and Europe, which is pretty much the only place that we tour because a lot of the band is British.
Okay.
They will go to cities that we've never played in Europe. And I'm like, how did you guys get like all these people here?
Yeah.
And Robin's like, I'm doing targeted ads, and I'm doing it 4 months in advance, and I'm finding people that like this sort of music because I'm using Facebook's algorithms, and I'm paying a little fee in the grand scheme of things to run these targeted ads at a very specific group of people. And I thought it wouldn't work. And now we go to shows and I'm like, how did you hear about the show? It's like, I saw an ad on Facebook. And then the next time we go, I'm like, how'd you find the show? And they're like, my friend brought me. And I'm like, cool. How did you find out about us? Facebook. So it's this organic thing that's happening because of these targeted ads. And it's really cool to go to a city and play to 50 people. And then the next time you go to that city, there's like 150 people. And then the next time you go, there's like 300 people. And it's all word of mouth because we're independent. We like to be independent. And it's like a really cool experience, like getting that organic growth.
Yeah, no, totally. That's amazing. Because like I said, it's one of those things like Facebook ads. It can be daunting. It can be a daunting thing to try and tackle. But when you get something that's working is really cool. And I like to hear those stories because it kind of sheds some light on what is possible. Because again, I think a lot of us, we hear these stories and it's like, it can feel like a pipe dream, but like to, hear that, somebody that, you come hang out at Writers Round and like you've firsthand seen this work, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's always cool for me to like, highlight these things because it's like, no, people that you see on the streets in the scene, have witnessed this firsthand and they're figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah, it's cool too when you're like 6,000 miles away from your home and like people are singing your song. Like we could stop playing and people are going to keep the lyrics going. That's really cool. How did that happen? I guess Facebook advertisements led us to this point. And all that happened because Robin and Greta were doing the research and putting in the work to figure out how to like capitalize on that opportunity. You know what I mean? They could have easily just been like, oh, the promoter will take care of it, which a lot of times they don't. Right.
Yeah, and that's another thing of taking it into your own hands, taking your career into your own hands. Because yes, and I've been guilty of this too, of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna let them handle this. This might be their job, or that's but if you really want things to work, sometimes you got to make them work yourself. So I think that's really cool that they took matters into their own hands. They learned, and it can be difficult to learn, to figure out exactly how to, target things right and exactly, how to make it all work. But once you get it, then it can be really cool. Yeah. I've had some, I've done some ad things as well. And, sometimes it can be like, oh shit, I'm like draining my account right now because like I'm just throwing these ads out there and it's not working. But then I've had some that started working. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I see like, okay, now I kind of see how it comes together. Yeah. And, then you can, use that in the future.
Yeah. Honestly, I would like suggest having both of them on this. Like they have a lot of wisdom to impart.
Dope.
And I mean, they're fans of your music because I show them stuff that we work on. So like, yeah, they are very intelligent people and they have a lot of cool things to say. So I'll hook you guys up.
Yes, no, let's do it. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. They're awesome. Great talkers too. Like they can share so much knowledge. So
cool.
I like being in a band with them.
Yeah, dope. Yeah. No, I'd love to get them on. Yeah, definitely. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've had the opportunity to see y'all perform too. Really dope, fun, like kind of a jam energy at times, and like, but just think it's really cool. It was a really fun show that I went to.
Cool.
And I was really watching, because I play keys too. Like the guy saw keys was like a monster.
Yeah, he shreds.
Yeah, I was like, oh. Dope.
Everybody in that band kind of does too.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
They're really good at finding like amazing players, and then like we all kind of play not below our capabilities. Like we play to the music because that music is so much about like Robin's guitar solos and Greta's vocals. Yes. And so like we play to the music, and then we kind of get to have fun in those like jammy parts. But they always hire people who are just like killers.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of really good players just by playing with them.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, you be like Broadway because like you always come out to everyone's shows, and that is super important. Like I try to do that too. I try to like follow your lead a little bit on that because people are always saying, hey, come to my show. And you're like, okay, for sure. It's on a Tuesday at 9 p.m. I'm tired. But even if I don't invite you to a gig that I'm playing, like you usually show up, and that sticks in people's minds for sure.
I mean, I think there's several reasons that I like to get out when I can. Number one, it's just like supporting other people. I think it's just good to do, support your friends, and their endeavors, I feel like that's a good thing to do. And then also, just like I was talking about, like, watching the keys player, like, you learn things, you pick up things, and watching other vocalists, I learn things whenever I'm at shows. Like, it's kind of like we were talking about with, LeBron, for example. LeBron is a student of the game. When you hear LeBron talk, or you hear any other people talk about LeBron, like he's a student of the game. And so he, like I said, he knows what everybody on his team is supposed to be doing, and he knows what everybody on the other team is doing, and like, so he's a student of the game. So, I say that to say, I go to shows, and it's not I'm not like jacking anybody's, but it's like, I might see somebody do something cool. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I can try to like, incorporate that type of thing, my own version of that into my show. Or, you might see people who are really good at crowd participation, or this other person might be really good at runs. This other person might be really good on the keys. And so you can like take things from people. And so part of it is, doing your homework and, kind of being a student of the game and learning, because we can all learn things from each other, as we're all trying to, come up in this thing. I feel like we can take notes on, what other folks do well. And, I think, we want to play to our own strengths. I think that is important too, like knowing who you are and playing to your strengths and not trying to copy other people, per se. But I think observing a lot of what's out there also can help you find your own lane and find your own unique, vibe and style. Or maybe it's like taking little bits and pieces from here and there to, create your own thing.
Yeah, I think when I was younger too, like I would go out to see gigs, and like whether it's a band that I really like or just like somebody random, and if I would get like super depressed afterwards. Like I would go see a show that I wanted to see really bad, and I would like leave being sad. Like, and I think it was a bit of immaturity, because I was like, I should be doing that. Like, why do they get to do that? And I don't. Like, I want that. It's just like, I want it so bad. Or I would see a drummer that I'm like, this guy crushes. I suck. Like, it's easy to get down on yourself. But then as I've gotten older, it's like, it should be inspirational, and be like, damn, this dude or this chick is sick with it. So like, man, I'm just going to study them. And if I could take one little thing from them, then it was worth it to come to this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that's another great point, is like, you definitely can get a lot of inspiration. And sometimes I'll go to a show and, somebody was really dope, and I'll get home. It could be 11 o'clock at night, but I'll sit at the keys and like write, or I'll like work on the key, because I'm like, I'm inspired to become better myself. I'm inspired to write the next song. I'm inspired to, just become a better musician. So that is definitely something that, can happen from going out and, taking in music. Yeah. I also wanted to talk to you about something that we talked about last time, but I think it was good for artists to hear, because, times are hard out there. Like rent is too damn high, as the saying used to go, the guy used to say. But yeah, no, it's hard, especially in a city like LA. Rent's crazy, gas is crazy. And then on top of that, being an independent artist, there's, it's a lot. So one of the things we talked about last time was like, if I'm an artist, I'm on a budget, like, and we talked about this because we were in your home studio at the time. You have a dope studio set up, but you've also, you got a lot of experience with mics and all of that. So yeah, what if I'm an independent artist, I'm on a budget, what do I need to have, at the house to be able to get a decent recording? Maybe it's not, the best recording ever, but I can get a decent recording, a decent sound for, minimal money,
Yeah, I think it's important to have an interface that you like and a mic that you like. It doesn't have to be an expensive mic, but like a mic that sounds good on your voice if you're doing vocals and whatnot. But if you have like a little interface, which can be cheap nowadays, like, get a little universal audio one. Like I think they make like the Twin, where it's just 2 inputs. You can like plug in your guitar, and emulations are so great nowadays. So like you can do a guitar amp emulation, get a great sound, and then you've got your vocal mic, make that sound good. And then like on top of that, I think it's important to know your equipment. So whatever you get, don't just get it because you saw somebody be like, I have a distressor, and you're like, I'll get a distressor too. And then you just like put your mic into it and you're like, why does it sound bad? Distressors suck. It's like, no, you can use YouTube University, as I call it, to like figure out how to use that piece of gear correctly. Because it doesn't matter if you get a a mic that you like, or you're using an emulation that is really good if you don't know how to use it. So that's the most important thing to me, at least, because anyone can really do it. You know, it's just like the people that have the ear that they've fine-tuned and the people that know how to use their gear. You know?
No, I love that. YouTube University. You can learn a lot on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, and there's probably a video out there on pretty much any topic you want to search for. So
yeah, you're not allowed to, in my opinion, you're not allowed to say I don't know anymore. You can say like I'm not sure yet, because like if you want to figure out how to do something, you can do it. Like you've got so many ways to learn stuff nowadays. So you can find somebody that's smart that's talking about it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool time to be alive.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In certain ways.
Yeah. No, there are a ton of resources out there. So yeah, it's like you said, taking advantage of those resources. And yeah, like you said, nowadays, type in a keyword into a search and, you know, all these videos pop up on that subject.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, you can learn to do a lot of things that way.
Yeah. Also get good monitors to listen back to. That's important.
Yeah.
They don't have to be expensive either. Like I used KRKs for a long time.
Yeah.
Those worked. I like mixed albums in my apartment on those. That like I listen to now and I'm like, oh, that still sounds good.
Yeah.
So just like I said, learn your equipment and keep practicing. Like do it every day.
Yeah, totally. Any other advice like for artists to get a good sound?
Yeah, I think like knowing your DAW, like your digital audio workstation. Like I use Pro Tools, but I learned on Logic.
Okay.
And it's like for creativity, you don't want to be thinking about how to use something, right? So like it's the whole signal chain, like know how to use your signal chain. So you know how to play your guitar in this example. You know how to put it into your interface. You know how your interface works. You know how that goes into your DAW. And then when you're like, I want to make an edit, you don't have to think about, which key is this? Because then the idea is gone and you're thinking about how to do technical things instead of being creative.
Yeah.
So the home studio, quote unquote, thing is like too many people just say like, I bought an interface and a mic and now I'm good. So learning your DAW, all that stuff is, to me, the most important thing, because you've got talent already. So just learn how to make that talent have the fewest roadblocks in between your brain and like getting it out.
Yeah, totally. Because I know some people, you know, now that they're trying to like figure out how to keep the process going, because things can get expensive, and I get all of that. And so, trying to like learning those things, like learning those tools can be invaluable to be able to keep creating. Because one thing I like to do is just constantly like stay creating, whatever that is for you. Like, I think it's important to just keep going. If you have to, like if money's tight and you have to, do it at the house, like do it at the house. But I think keep creating is important.
Yeah, you can do stuff on a budget for sure. Yeah. And you could also find, talented people that are willing to work with your budget too.
Yes.
I think that's important. Like someone like me where I've got my home studio, I don't have like a set fee. I have a fee that I charge.
Yes.
Where I go like, I've done the calculations, that's what I think my time is worth. But if somebody comes in and they're like, I can't do that, I'm not like, well, see you later.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what can you afford? Like, let's figure this out, because I want to help you achieve this dream in your head. And like for me, it's worth it to take like a little bit less because you're going to be working with that person more. So have those conversations with people if you're on a budget. Don't be afraid to be like, yeah, there's a barrier to entry and I just can't afford it. Like go find people that you want to work with,
Yeah, no, totally. 100%. No, I think that's a good point. And just having the conversations and, maybe they'll be like, hey, this is my price and that's all I can do. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool for them. But the next person might say like what you just said and say, hey, let's figure something out. What can we, do? So, but I think it's about, like you said, having those conversations and not getting discouraged if the first producer you talk to or the first person you talk to is in the camp where their price is their price or whatever. Like, it could be the 7th person you talk to that, is down to, help you out. So, I think, just having those conversations.
Yeah. And producers and engineers know each other. Like if they're like, sorry, I can't do it for that price, then be like, cool. Do you have something you would suggest that maybe is like coming up that maybe I can work with? Like, just ask questions, Yeah. And also I think it's important to be like, your word is your bond, right? So to me, if somebody tells me I can't afford that, I'm going to believe them because I only work with people that I trust.
Yes.
And I know that they're not just being like, I don't want to pay that much, So just be honest, and if you can't afford it, then, pay for your craft.
Yeah.
But if you can't afford it, then have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, because, the producers and engineers got to eat too. So,
sure.
It's like if you can, it's like, pay the people for their time and energy.
Yeah.
But again, also I get it. It's hard out here in these streets,
sure.
and so like, sometimes, you gotta do what you gotta do on a budget. And sometimes, people will, and sometimes it may be like a combination of like, okay, this song I may do at the house, and then maybe I'll, save up for the next song and I'll work with you. And then, maybe I have to go back to the house for the next song. But like I said, I think like creating is important and continuing to try to make these improvements. I think I was talking to an artist about voice lessons, and it was like, she was saying, I can't afford the voice lessons, like I can't afford it every week or whatever, but like maybe you do it once a month, maybe you do, every other week or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, but like, I think, cause like I was taking like some keys lessons too. And, the person I was taking keys lessons with, she like travels a lot and stuff. So we didn't have like a consistent, schedule, but tapping in with her, like she would show me something, I'd be like, oh, that's dope. And then I could take that back and I could go practice that for the next few months or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, sometimes it just takes like somebody showing you a little something, and it could be in one, session. You're like, oh shit, okay, cool. And then you can take that and, apply that to your practice for, from then on until you see them again or whatever,
Something I always tell artists is if you want to save money, there's a really easy way to do it. And that's to come into the sessions prepared. Because if you're coming in and you're treating it like practice, then that bill's going to pile up quick.
Yes.
But if you come in and you're like, I have the song, I've practiced the parts. It's going to do 2 takes.
Yes.
I've practiced all the singing. I know what harmonies I want to do.
Yep.
That's going to be a quick session.
Yep.
And you're going to pay a lot less.
Yeah.
So like save yourself money by doing prep work.
100%. And that can be the purpose of the home studio also, because, one thing I used to do for every song is that before I would go into the studio, I would record a full demo. And so then it's like you said, I know exactly what I'm doing when I get to the studio. I know all the harmonies. I know, everything. And I have an idea of what I want everything to sound like. And, production wise, if you're working with a producer, like I would like produce something. And so like, I wasn't a great producer, but it's like, okay, here's a sketch. Here's an idea of what the song, is going to sound like. Yeah. Now I'm a little more like when you find somebody that, you trust and value their input. Like you, for example, I like to come in with a less complete idea so that you can then put your stamp on it too. Yeah. And I feel like because then you're bringing ideas to the table that I may not have thought of, versus if I come in with a complete thing, then it's like, okay, here's the thing versus like, okay, now I can, get some of your input and you bring your value to the table, and it's like, okay, cool. Now we've got something cool that like has flavor that I wouldn't have brought to the table. So that's how I like to do it now. But to your point, I used to have go into every session with a demo completely done. So if you're in the camp where you're trying to save money specifically, that is a great way to do that.
Yeah. Know the session that you're going into. Like if you're there to write, that's okay too.
Yeah.
But just, plan accordingly.
Yeah.
It's good advice for life, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, like knowing, the like kind of the strengths of the person that you're, working with too. Cause like, then like I said, they can bring their flavor to it. Like maybe you leave, this part undone so that they can put their, add their, but yeah, it's like knowing who that is and what you're working on before you go in is definitely important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Tom Rasulo, where can people find you, man?
I'm on Instagram like everybody else. It's patch.makes.music. You can reach out to me on there, and like, if you want to do sessions, like I'm free usually in like the next 3 to 6 weeks. So like ask me for a session. And if you want to like just come in and see the studio, reach out to me. You can come and see the studio. You can email me, patchmakesmusic@gmail.com. I'll answer you pretty immediately. Like I'm always good at responding. So if you want drums on something, I can do that and just send it to you. You don't need to come to the studio. If you want to come in and have me produce a song, let me know. If you want me to mix something, let me know. Like I do it all. So just hit me up, Yeah,
that's what's up. And that's how we actually started working together. We were playing basketball.
Yeah.
We played basketball together for a while and didn't know that we each did music. And somehow it randomly came up. You were about to leave or something like, oh, what you up to? And you're like, oh, I'm going to a session. I was like, oh, where do you do music? Blah, blah. And then I came and I checked out the studio first. And then we, ended up working together on different projects and whatnot. So yeah, cool. Yeah,
it's all from hooping,
Yeah, man. Tom, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and big ups to Dion and Twilla. I mean, they're back there. They don't get to be on camera, but they make it all happen. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. If there was something in particular that you got out of the episode, definitely let me know in the comments. Please please subscribe. And if there's somebody who you feel like could get something out of this, go ahead and send it to them. We'll see you next time.